Here's the number one reason your coaching business is never going to get off the ground unless you fix this. Welcome back. I'm Christina Scalera from The Contract Shop, and today we're talking all about the number one thing that is killing your coaching business. If you don't have this, you are not going to be successful. I'm going to get right to the point. The number one reason why you're losing potential clients and scaring away the ones that you already did get is because of your lack of boundaries. You haven't clearly defined what your expectations are from your clients and what they can expect from you in return. And the best way to do this is through a contract. And I'm going to walk you through some of the things that you need to have in that contract in order to make it valid and really, really solid so that you don't run into these boundary issues with your clients anymore. The mistake that a lot of new coaches make is they think they're too small or nobody really notices them yet, and they can get by without having any kind of formal agreement with their clients. And this is a huge, huge no-no. Because if you don't have a formal agreement with your clients, not only are you putting yourself at risk, but you're also subconsciously telling your clients that you don't really care about their needs and interests either, because that's what a formal agreement does. It protects both you and your clients. Additionally, if you want to look like a legitimate business owner and not just some fly-by-the-night coach, we all know they exist, you can stand out by having a formal agreement by showing your clients that you take their commitment seriously. And this is a real business. This isn't just you showing up for an hour every week to see how they're doing. There's nothing that makes you look more legitimate as a coach than considering your client's best interests, which is always to formalize all of their obligations and expectations and responsibilities inside that client agreement. This also really helps the client later because if they have any questions about your work together, such as how to contact you or when their payments are due, they can refer back to the contract without needing to email you for every single little thing. As a coach, we really want to see our little baby birds grow up and fly the nest. We don't want to handhold and nitpick them through the process. So giving them the tools that they need to succeed includes a formal agreement to give them the ability to help themselves. As a coach, you're also going to face missed payments, late payments, no-shows, ghosting clients, and a variety of other things that will happen. If you have a formal client agreement in place, it sets the tone that you do expect them to do certain things in your arrangement together, like pay you on time and show up on time for your calls. This is another way for you to reinforce those boundaries with your clients, and it's a way for you to make sure that you are protecting your own interests so that you don't just work for free for months at a time without getting paid. I always joke that client contracts, when you're getting started, if you piece them together from the internet, what you're doing is essentially creating Frankenstein's monster. Like you're just Frankensteining everything together. You have no idea if it's really gonna work. It might come alive, but it's kind of ugly and you don't know what is going to happen because it isn't a solid legal document that helps you along the way. It might help, it might just turn into a monster. We don't know yet. Additionally, your contract is a huge part of that client booking process, which we all know is the most fragile part of your client journey. When people find you through Instagram or your blog, they're so excited. They're really interested in working with you, and that's the hottest time for them to purchase. They're so excited when they find you on Instagram or your blog, and they can't wait to work with you. And then what happens? We have a sales call or there's some other kind of sales mechanism, and they get the contract in hand, and sometimes the deal can fall apart. This is typically because the contract looks really amateur, or it has grammatical or spelling mistakes, or it's really short. So it's not there to protect either of you because it can't possibly do that in just one page. Or the client can see the contract is clearly pieced together and it tells them that you don't really care about this business in the same way that they care about whatever it is that they're seeking from you, whether it's life coaching or mindset coaching or business coaching. If you piece together a contract from the internet, it's kind of like showing up to a Zoom meeting without any makeup and your hair's a mess and you have stains all over your old ratty sweatshirt. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look like you're actually showing up and excited to work with that client. A pieced together contract is the virtual equivalent of you showing up to those Zoom calls with your clients looking a mess. And it's one of the first impressions they're going to see in that booking process. So we want to make sure that they feel really confident and excited about moving forward with us and not tentative or icky or feeling like you're rubbing them the wrong way because you didn't really consider their best interests at the point of booking. Here are 7 things that you will definitely want to include in your coaching agreement to set that good boundary, that good expectation with your clients from the beginning so that you can move forward in a really positive, healthy way that enables your clients to get the best results possible. It's always important to determine what the purpose of your work together is. I know this sounds straightforward, but sometimes our work together can morph with our clients. And so we want to define what the client is looking for, what the purpose of our work with them is, and nail down exactly why we're entering into this client-provider relationship. The second thing, and maybe the most important, but we don't want to throw it in their face just at the very beginning of the contract for obvious reasons, is payment. We want to address how and when you'll get paid. I'm a big fan of exact numbers, which means that if they're on a payment plan, we tell them the exact amount that's due and on what date that's due. That way, if they miss a payment or they underpay you or they're late, we know exactly when and how that has occurred. Versus if you just say they're on a payment plan and they have to pay, let's say, $5,000 by December 1st. That doesn't really give us any information about how they're doing along the way to make progress towards that payment plan with you. Related to this, the third thing I always recommend a contract have inside it is any kind of extra costs. So if they go over on time because they asked for it or because they just are hoarding your time, how are you going to handle that? Another way this plays out is if you have a coaching call scheduled with them and they're more than 15 minutes late. Not only is it rude, but you also could have scheduled another client during that time or other kind of work to further your own coaching business. So you are missing out on money if they're not showing up. And how are you going to handle that? Are you going to give them another chance? I like to recommend that coaches give their clients 1 or 2 grace periods where if they miss a session or they're late for a session, they allow their clients to just miss that free and clear before they start charging them for missed sessions. I think the grace period works really, really well because it shows that you're compassionate and it also shows that you're not going to stand for them just not showing up or showing up late. Plus, you're giving them plenty of time before their next session to decide if they are going to make their coaching call with you a priority for next time. And I can promise you that if they want to work with you, they're never going to be late again. The fourth thing that is a good idea to address is any kind of rescheduling or cancellation policies. So if they do need to reschedule, how far in advance does that need to happen? Like with the grace policy, does it need to happen at least 24 hours in advance? If they cancel within that 24 hours, does that count towards their grace session? And it's also a good idea to discuss the end of the working agreement with the client because all good things have to come to an end at some point. Maybe the client is ready to move on, maybe you're ready to move on, but at some point you will no longer work with this client and we need to figure out what that looks like, how much notice the client needs to give you, or sometimes as coaches, we need to fire our clients. So how much notice do you have to give to your client in order for you to wrap up your coaching sessions together? And if there's anything outstanding, how does that get handled? So for example, if you want to fire a client, you can put that in your client agreement. Not, I reserve the right to fire you, but I reserve the right to cancel our services at any time, and this is how it's going to happen. I'll refund you any unused sessions, or I'll carry out the extent of our work together, and then we won't have an option to renew, something like that. As the boss of your coaching business, it's beautiful because you get to decide what these boundaries are. There's no right or wrong answer, but if you are looking for more guidance, we definitely have contract templates in my store so that you know exactly what to say and there's no second guessing or worrying that you said the right thing. I actually forgot where we are, so I think we're on number 5, which means that you have the opportunity to outline what the coaching process is going to look like with this client. For example, is it going to include a certain number of calls? Are those calls going to be weekly or monthly? How long is each call going to be? How can they access you outside of coaching hours? Do they have Voxer access? Do they have email access? If they have access to these other kinds of communication tools like Voxer and email, are there only certain days of the week that they can expect responses? If you address these things up front, not only is it a really healthy boundary to put in place that the client can refer back to at any time, again, helping them help themselves, but it also sets an expectation so that a client isn't wondering where you are on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m. and why you haven't responded to their 5 Voxers yet. If we don't at a bare minimum meet our clients' expectations, you can guess what's going to happen. They're never going to hire us again, and they're not going to refer us, which is bad for business. Number 6, it's important to have some sort of refund policy. I have in my templates a provision that says if the provider or the coach can no longer give any kind of services that are outside of their control, that there could be somebody that takes over, or the refund will be given to the client appropriately according to how much is left in that client's coaching package. And I got a lot of flack for this. A lot of people were like, I would never cancel all my clients. I would never do that. That's unprofessional, blah, 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 right? And I was like, well, unfortunately, like, what if you got in a car accident? Or what if you found out that you were pregnant and you needed to cancel on a client at some point? And they were like, oh, yeah, I guess those things can happen. So sometimes as the service provider, we need to be able to provide refunds to our client or some sort of alternative arrangement. We also sometimes get asked for refunds. So sometimes we work with clients and it's just not working out, and we need to have a clear understanding of how and when a refund will be processed. I've had several instances of people who came crying to me, and it's a really unfortunate circumstance where someone has provided months and months and months of coaching, and then 3 to 6 months later, they get a chargeback. So if they accepted credit cards from their clients for their coaching payments, they run the risk of dealing with a chargeback situation later, which is where the client has filed a complaint with their own card company that they used to pay for the coaching services. And the client has basically told the card company that they didn't like the services or the services weren't as provided. And basically, this client's just causing you a lot of problems. It can turn into something bigger if you don't deal with it. Namely, if this happens more than once, the PayPal or Stripe or Square account that you use to charge the credit card could get shut down, which obviously is really hard to run a business if you don't have a way to take payment. So these could lead to a lot of problems down the road. And one of the ways to prevent these problems is to have a clear refund policy. So even if you have a group coaching program and you don't necessarily have a contract in place with every single group coaching client, what you will have is some sort of terms and conditions at checkout, most likely, or I hope you do. But in those terms and conditions, you can also link to your refund policy, and it doesn't matter what your refund policy is, so long as it's clearly stated up front and that person who's joining your group coaching program or whatever kind of services you're offering, that they can say yes or no to that refund policy at purchase and decide to move forward with the purchase, or if they don't agree with the policy, they can decide not to purchase. If you want some extra help with refund policies, we actually have an awesome kit that walks you through everything you need to know about handling refunds, avoiding chargebacks. It's all at refundrecon.com, or you can check out the link below this video. And then finally, this is really important for coaches who often are multi-passionate and have different kinds of backgrounds and certifications and licenses. I'm looking at you guys because you have all kinds of things going on for you. It's really impressive, but at the same time, we don't want to give our clients the wrong expectation. So for example, if you are a coach, but you also in a past life were a therapist, you don't want your coaching clients to confuse your mindset coaching with your therapy. And so it's important to have disclaimers if you do have a background like this, so that clients don't confuse what they're actually getting from you in the session. Another example I see oftentimes are people that have backgrounds in fitness or nutrition. Let's say they're a registered dietitian, but they also coach people on eating and healthy eating and behaviors and food patterns, etc. Well, we don't want to confuse the work that you would do with clients as a registered dietitian with the food coaching that you're doing with your clients. And that's where a disclaimer can come in and help you in a lot of different ways, both legally, but also, again, setting those boundaries and healthy expectations with your clients. At the Contract Shop, we have coaching and website terms and conditions, refund policies, all of those things available for all kinds of coaching businesses. In fact, you guys are one of our #1 buyers, so we cater heavily to you. And if you are looking for a coaching contract template, make sure you go to thecontractshop.com to pick up what you need today. Or if you're not ready to invest yet, get our free contract checklist at rocksolidcontract.com. We're going to show you how to have a rock solid contract by giving you a checklist of everything a contract should have in order to enforce healthy boundaries and client relationships. If you like this video, make sure you're subscribed, give us a thumbs up, and make sure you check back next week where we'll be talking about more fun things that help keep your business legit.